This is Rick Kaselj from exercisesforinjuries.com. Today I have another interview for you, and this is a three-way interview. So we'll see how this goes, and we'll try it out. And who I have on the call is Sylvia and Tyler, and I will get Sylvia to introduce herself to the listeners, viewers, and readers.
Hey guys, I'm Sylvia Favela, the Pilates chick, and 3cpilatesworkout.com. And I've been a Pilates expert for over a decade now, just helping people move better to live better.
Awesome. Okay, Tyler, I'll get you to introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Tyler. I'm just a normal guy who likes to train in his garage. That's what I do. No, I founder of GarageWarrior.com, and I just love to teach people performance-based training so they can look good and perform even better. So.
Okay. And so you two have kind of teamed up to do something unique, and what you guys have combined to kind of create is these flows, these bodyweight flows. So maybe you can kind of talk about, what a bodyweight flow is, and why is it beneficial for people to kind of add it to their programs.
Well, can I hit that one, Sylvia? You mind if I jump in there?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit, Rick, just to kind of give people a perspective on kind of why we thought about this product, because that's really important to understand that backstory. A lot of people these days might not be getting what they possibly could out of their workouts. And what I mean by that is simple, is they're focusing on reps, sets, exercises, but they're not focusing on what the real big picture is, which is better movement, right? And I'm sure you agree with this because you do exercises for injuries. So in order to prevent injuries, you absolutely have to have good movement, right? And people out there are focusing more on intensity and volume than they are on better movement, right? And we see this all the time. And so I was all into this movement thing. I was focusing on how to get people moving better, doing warm-ups, performance training. And then literally about 6 months ago? It wasn't even 6 months ago. It was like 4 months ago. Sylvia and I were sitting down talking about this, and we started talking about how we each individually teach people how to perform and move better. And through our talking, we're like, holy cow, we have like the same philosophy, these same ideas. Why don't we bash our heads together and come up with a concept so we can teach other people than just our clients how to do this kind of stuff? So that's where our flow system originated. And if you guys are thinking of a flow right now and you're like, what the heck is that? Really simply put, you could think of like a few exercises strung together very fluidly that teach people how to have perfect form through those movements. And so our goal is to increase range of motion, control of the muscles, as well as coordination at the same time. And when people do that, their workouts instantly become better. That's kind of the goal of the system. You have anything to add to that, Sylvia?
To be quite honest, I mean, you kind of pretty much wrapped it all up in that one, in that whole preface. But you pretty much nailed it with all that. So it's just, the only thing I could add is just moving better and just being more aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it and form and everything. That's really kind of like the missing key, the missing little aspect of, fitness and what most people don't even think about, but that is where you're going to get better by doing this.
Awesome. So let's take a step back. Like, what's this big deal about movement? Like, people move around, people are doing exercise. Like, why should people shift over and start thinking about the movement side of things? They're already moving. They're doing stuff.
They are moving, but they're very limited in their movement. Most people just kind of go about doing their workouts and just throwing things around. Like, they'll lift a weight, just throw it around. Like, oh, yeah, maybe if I start feeling it burning after 100 reps, then I've done something. Well, initially, really, the more that you're actually targeting and hitting muscles and activating those muscles, you don't have to be doing hundreds of reps to already feel something. It's more of as you're moving, as you're being aware of what you're doing, you can actually get better results and be able to go further in your workouts and get deeper into your workouts, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, form is this like elusive thing, Rick. Form is this thing where we all talk about like, oh, my trainer told me to do this, right? Or I read this magazine and it told me to do that. But let me ask you this question, Rick, because you've actually trained a lot of people with injuries. How many people do you see come in and just squat correctly the first time?
The vast majority of people squat horribly.
Horribly. It's terrible, right? I watch kids not be able to squat because they're watching their parents not be able to squat. And 9 times out of 10, they have one of 3 issues. And that's what we're trying to address. Those 3 issues are they don't have the ability to contract their muscles. That generally has to do with the stability component, right? They don't understand what muscles they should be contracting. 2, they lack range of motion or they lack control in extreme ranges of motion, right? And so that means somebody might be able to do a parallel squat, but if they try to do a butt to ground squat, it's never going to happen, or they're going to sacrifice their form because they lack the flexibility to do it. And then number 3 is coordination, which is shocking. Some people have the flexibility, they have the muscle strength, but they don't know how to fire in a proper sequence, right? And how do you learn how to do that? You learn how to do that through movement training. And so we try to provide people with specific details that most trainers just don't understand. And it's not their fault that they don't understand. It's just that Sylvia and I have been doing this for a long time, and both of us are really obsessed with the fine points. Her coming from a therapeutic Pilates background, and myself coming, honestly, from my own pile of injuries, and then training other people how to get past their own injuries and then accelerate their performance as well. So I think that when people say form, it's just thrown around so loosely. We're talking about better movement, which embodies just really learning how to move your entire body better. And like, we talked about the squat. That's an easy example where if somebody has a lousy squat during their workout and then somebody right next to them has a great squat during their workout, they do the exact same workout and the exact same reps, who's going to get better results, right? The person with lousy form who's not firing their muscles properly and not going through a full range of motion, or the person who's firing their muscles properly, more explosively, more coordinated, and through a full range of motion. They're going to burn more calories, they're going to burn more fat, they're going to gain more strength, whatever. They're going to get better results with their workouts because they have access to that.
Okay. And then so we've kind of talked about the squat. Now, what are some other movements that people kind of mess up that they've kind of lost or haven't learned properly?
Can I take that one?
Oh yeah, I'll jump in after you.
The one that is always is the plank, a forearm plank, a simple plank. That one, it's amazing. I've worked with so many people that'll say, oh yeah, I can do this, and they go down, they're like, I can do this, I've been taught how to do this. Their low back is arching, their head is in the wrong place. It's like, oh, it's frustrating because they're just diving into their back. They're like, I can hold this, but all they're doing is injuring and putting more pressure where it's not needed. So the plank is that number one move that I see that's done totally wrong. Their form is totally off. So with these, with the flows, it shows you how to position your body in the correct spot, so where you're actually feeling the core working quicker, and you don't sacrifice, having to use your back to get into that position and holding it longer. So which other one would you say, Tyler?
Well, I couldn't agree more on the plank, Sylvia. And one of the things that we try to do when we put together these bodyweight flows is not only create positions of stability, like the plank, right? So not only teach people how to do a basic plank. I don't want anybody who's listening to this to think of like we're just holding planks, right?
Right,
but
exactly.
It's to be able to go into and out of the plank fluidly through other positions, right? So maybe that would mean going from a plank where your stomach is facing the ground and then rotating around to the point where your body's facing the ceiling, and then rotating around back into the plank without ever sacrificing your core integrity, right?
Right.
And so we do a lot of rotational movements in this program, a lot of movements that involve not just that frontal plane stability or that lateral plane stability. We like to throw a lot of transverse plane stability into it as well. And so we do a lot of lower body movements. We do a lot of planking movements. We do a lot of downward dog-esque movements to increase mobility, but also to teach stability in those positions. And we string them together in these flows because that's what we know gets people firing their muscles properly, building more range of motion, as well as coordinating everything. So it's not just about holding a position properly, it's about the transition from one position to another. And one of the things I've been teaching my boot camp clients for several years now is what I call neural reconditioning. And that's simply this: whenever you pick up and put something down in class, you do it right. You do it 100% right. So that when you go home and you drop your Kleenex on the ground and go to pick it up, you don't throw your back out. Because I guarantee everybody throws their back out, it's never picking up something heavy. It's always like a little box or something, right? It's never picking up something heavy, because when you pick something up heavy, you brace. Whether you know it or not, you go and you lock everything down and you brace, right? But when we want people to move better without having to think about it, and so training your body through movement patterns, through positioning, through transitioning from position to position is what I feel is the best way to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And then, so not everyone has like access to a trainer or is able to have someone assess them. What would you recommend in that situation for someone to kind of, how would they end up determining that they have poor movement and what they need to work on?
Oh, that's a great question. You mind if I jump in the start there real quick, Sylvia?
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm just a talker.
I know.
I'm passionate about it.
I know.
First of all, Rick, you're probably going to find 1 out of 1,000 people who would be able to follow along to some of our flows and do them perfectly, right? It's going to be a rarity that somebody presses play and is like, oh, I got this. You know what I mean? And that's why when we designed our system that we put together, we did beginner, intermediate, advanced variations of everything. So the beginner flows require less control, less coordination, less range of motion than the advanced ones, which require a pretty extreme amount of flexibility, stability, coordination, everything like that. And so, first of all, what I'm trying to say is that everybody needs to work on this stuff, regardless of who you are. If you're a professional athlete, you probably should be working on this stuff to keep yourself injury-free, make sure your performance lasts longer, and so on and so forth. If you're brand new to training, then you've got to work on this stuff because it's going to unlock your potential. It's going to unlock your physical potential. And so, without thinking about who should be doing this because they have bad form, I just pretty much say that everybody's got bad form on something, right? And so how do they learn how to do better form? Well, they have to learn how to move into and out of position. So like you said, we're talking about planks, downward dogs, the finer points, things like that. Yes, it would be great for you to hire a trainer if you could afford it. And then even the harder part is if you can find one that's like qualified, right? Which really, that one drives me crazy. We could talk all day about that. But most of these people are weekend certified, and they don't know the first thing about muscular activation or proper positioning, right? And so even if you could hire a trainer, it probably wouldn't do you as much good as if you educated yourself. That's the problem, is we all empower other people to teach us what we should and shouldn't be doing, when really we should be educating ourselves on how we move. And movement is so key. Movement is so key. It drives me crazy. I get so passionate about this, Rick, because the brain, the neocortex, was designed for better movement, right? That's why it grew, was to help us expand, help our digits be able to move so we can play pianos and so we can build tools, right? So when people move better, when they actually take some time to focus on movement rather than just how many push-ups and pull-ups and whatnot I can do, you're actually improving the function of your neocortex. I firmly believe that people who move better have a better connection to their brain that connects to other things as well. So there's so much benefit from it. I know that really didn't answer your question specifically about trainers, but I just trying to tell people that everybody has some dysfunctions in moving, and so everybody should be working on their movement no matter what. Okay.
And then, so one trend that's happened in fitness, it might be on the tail end of the trend, is this thing called like functional training. So trying to take traditional bodybuilding exercises and tweaking them so that they're functional or relate to movements that one does in regular life. Now, how does the bodyweight flows differ from that functional training?
Oh, that's a good question. You want to tackle that, Sylvia?
You're on a roll. Go right ahead.
You want me to jump into it?
I'll jump in right after you. Go right ahead.
Okay. I'll make this one a little bit more brief. So I love the concept of functional training. It's brilliant to think that you could train movement patterns that you perform in daily life so that your life improves, your body improves, everything improves, right? I'm a huge advocate of doing these things. Where people go wrong with functional training is that they take it to an extreme that's useless, right? And so what I do within Garage Warrior Community, I do what's called Real Functional Training, REAL, it's an acronym for realistic exercises, right? Which means things that you might actually encounter in your real life, not pink Barbie rotator cuff exercises with a band strapped around your knee on a Bosu ball. Like, that's not ever going to happen, right? Realistic exercises, right? Executed with perfect form, at a high intensity, leaving you with a body that looks good and performs even better. So that is my acronym for Real Functional Training. And if you take that and actually apply it to an exercise, you'll think to yourself, like, is this realistic? Can it be executed with perfect form? Can I do it at a high intensity? Because a lot of these woo-woo things you can't do at a high intensity, right? You can't do them at any level of intensity. They're really just kind of like quasi-therapeutic exercises. To me, real functional training is learning how to squat on 2 legs, learning how to squat on 1 leg, learning how to rotate onto the ground, learning how to stand up through rotational positions, learning how to stabilize yourself in plank as you move in and out, some sort of bridging, all these different things. That, to me, is real functional training. I see Rick just smiling on the other end right there. So I think that's what I think real functional training is, and people miss the boat on it, and they just do so much stuff that's worthless that they never end up getting any real results from it. You got to work on strength, you got to work on intensity, you got to work on real movements. If you want to make them functional, do them in a way that you might actually do them in real life. But that specific adaptation to imposed demands that we hear about all the time, right? The SAID principle, that just says if I stand on a Bosu ball and I do rotator cuff drills with the band strapped around my knees on a Bosu ball or whatever, all I'm going to get better at is the Barbie dumbbell Bosu ball rotator cuff exercise. I'm not actually going to get better at anything else, right? So I just like to make that point so clear, because if you get better at what you practice, and so if you practice flowing through movements that you actually might get into in real life, then you will get better at that. If you practice the pink Barbie Bosu thing, you'll get better at that, but I don't know what that's going to really help you in the real world. So.
And this is why we partnered up to do this, because I couldn't even add anything else more to that, because that's exactly, I was about to say is that, realistic movements. Because that is not realistic. Standing on a Bosu ball, doing that, no one does that. Really, it's just nobody does that. It's just doing real movements that you need from day to day. Simple things like you're sitting down. If you're sitting on a bench watching your kids play and you try to get up and turn around and grab something, you should be able to easily move, rather than like, oh, it's like you throw your back out. So there's simple movements like that, and that's what the flows do, is it helps you learn to move all together in transition, going from one move to the other. So it's, just about the same thing that what Tyler was saying, but just realistic moves that you're going to do, not the Barbie rotation. That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny.
We'll have to look for a YouTube video.
I think so.
I should make you one. I'll get the sweatband on and everything. I'll be like,
that's so
okay, so some people might be thinking, well, this just sounds like, a fancy way of saying warm up. Now, how would the bodyweight flows differ from just a typical, calisthenic warm up that a lot of people end up doing?
Do you mind? I'll jump in on this one.
Go for it. Yes. I can see you saying something already.
It differs in the sense that when you're learning to flow from one to the next to the other, when you're learning to contract the muscles and using proper form, you're firing all the muscles at once, that literally you're already in that workout stage where it's not just like, oh, let's just warm up the muscle. Like, you're already firing so many muscles that it doesn't take a whole lot of movement to already get your body flowing and moving, to where every single muscle, like for example, like your core, as you're moving next, your core should already be firing within like a couple seconds to do this. So when you're doing that as opposed to warm-ups is just, okay, let's stretch, let's breathe this. These are more intense. It's going to get your body already, getting you ready. And the faster you learn how to do these and you flow with them, you'll be able to get even deeper into your work. So I don't know, Tyler, if you want to add on top of that.
Sure, I'll touch briefly.
Briefly.
Like warm up is a great word. People talk about warm-ups, pre-workout routines. What we wanted to do with our flows is not necessarily even call them a warm-up or be a part of it. If you look into like the scientific literature, this stuff sticks. So if you do a pre-workout routine, it's still relevant on your body getting better results during your workouts up to 24 hours afterwards. You still get better results for up to 24 hours. So I'm kind of the person where I'm like, hey, it doesn't really matter to me when you learn how to flow. You can wake up in the morning and do one of our 2 to 3 minute flows right out of bed, just to kind of wake up your nervous system, increase your range of motion, throw some lymph around and everything. You can do them before your workouts for that specific reason as a warm-up. You can do them after your workouts for some movement practice, some recovery, some leaning up, or just loosening up the muscles that you just used. And then you can also do them between your exercises. Something that I would say would be really beneficial is people who are very into strength training. So people who are doing power lifting, people who are doing Olympic lifting, maybe CrossFit style workouts, doing a flow in between their higher intensity components of their workout in order to loosen up their body, right? And we found, again through the research, that this technically reduces lactic acid during the workout. So it's just moving the fluids around, and there's that neurological benefit that science hasn't really been able to quantify, that you would add on top of it as well. That's the hard part, Rick, is we wanted to really have a lot of good scientific proof for this, and we do have some really good research studies to back up what we're talking about, but there isn't a lot of people who are able to quantify the things like the neurological benefits, right? And the way I think of the nerves is, if I put a hose at the top of a giant dirt hill, when I first turn that on, there's going to be all these different pathways going down, right? You can think about like your brain when you're young. But as we move in one particular fashion over and over again, as that hose keeps running, it's going to groove in just a few different streams. And so these people are locked into their movement patterns because they've never experienced something else, right? And you might have seen this in powerlifters, and I have nothing against powerlifters. I think they train amazing. The guys are some of the strongest guys in the world. But they're also sacrificing a lot of their health because of this. Their body doesn't move in the way that it probably should anymore because they're doing such heavy lifting on some basic compound lifts. If somebody like, a huge or bodybuilder or powerlifter were to add in some flow work between their sets, and the cool thing is, these guys rest for 5-10 minutes anyways. You might as well do a 2 to 3 minute flow, right? Just to kind of and just do something else with your time. I think they would get better overall results. If nothing less, they would probably reduce the risk of getting injured as well. So. Maybe that kind of adds on to it.
Okay, so then looking at where these flows end up going, they can be placed, prior to your workout, in between sets. Is there any other places that these flow workouts can be put in?
Pretty much just at any time, anywhere. Really is where you can do
lunch
it.
Break.
Lunch break. If you're lunch break, and if you have to get up, move around in your, if you're sitting at your desk, and if you could do a few of these, that would it would help. So you could do it. There's no specific time when, but it's just a matter of just do them. That's really the goal.
The reality is this, Rick. If somebody does one flow, 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes per day, right? Maybe 5 days a week, right? Just give me that. One flow per day, 5 days a week. They're going to see a significant change in the way they move. And the way they're going to see it is this. They're going to go after 5 days, they're going to be like, holy cow, everything starts to feel a little bit different. After 30 days, they're going to go stand up from their chair or their bench, like Sylvia's talking about, and they're going to rotate from the hips rather than from the knee joint or from the ankle joint. Mm-hmm. And they're going to say, how did I learn how to do that, right? They're going to be playing with their kids on the ground, and they're going to roll over into a standing position from a plank, right? And they're going to be like, weird. I didn't think about that, but I'm moving more efficiently, I'm feeling better, I'm feeling stronger. So yeah, they're designed to boost the results you get from your workouts, but you're likely going to see these things improving your daily life as well. Mm-hmm. And so, to answer your question, it's not about when you do it, it's whether or not you're willing to give me 2 minutes to consistently do it, right? Because it's like diet. Like diet can make so many people get better results instantly. But how many people do you know are consistent with it? Tons of people. My exercise routine isn't working. Well, it's really their diet routine, right? So it's really all about consistency, right? I preach people that over and over again. As much as I love like the 21-day this and 15-day that, I want people trying out a bodyweight flow 2 minutes a day for 30 days, and they'll see enough results out of that they'll probably want to do it for the rest of their lives.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's go through an example. I'm an absolute beginner. I'm just starting exercise. Maybe Sylvia, you can give us an example of like a total beginner flow, or where you would start off with someone with a beginner flow.
Oh, that's good luck.
I could go through. It would be a series of probably 3 movements. One would be working through rolling through your back. Laying on your back, rolling through your back, and then slightly, going over into a side position, maybe where you're kind of coming up into a side plank where you're kneeling. If this is kind of on the road where you wanted me to go, and back again, more pelvic curls where you would lift your hips, and then over onto the other side. So you're kind of warming up the spine, warming up the sides, lateral movements to kind of help your body. Really, it's more so being aware of what your body is doing and just knowing, okay, if I move my hips up this way and if I rotate here, laterally through the obliques, okay, I will feel that as well. So something like that is kind of a beginner movement, just knowing how to move really side to side. Because if you watch really like kids or young kids, babies, they could lay on their back, right away they roll over onto their side. So something really basic and simple like that is probably where I would start somebody off. You know, something very, very, very basic. So Tyler, I don't know if you would add anything or another example of something.
Well, Tyler will get the crazy one. So the person
You would get the crazy ones.
The crazy one.
So
I've
been exercising for a long time. Okay, what's this flow thing? You know, give me a challenge flow.
A challenging flow. Well, you know, that's the hardest part about things like flows is like you describe them, and it doesn't really do them very much justice, right? And so, you know, the first thing I'll say is me and Sylvia, let's hook Rick up with a free flow for all your readers, Rick, so that way they can check it out, great. Right? So that it's so much easier to just watch it and go through the instruction and just watch your computer and go just do a 2-minute flow and see how powerful it can be. So we'll hook you up with one so you can check that out.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of like a more advanced flow. I took a move called a tornado squat, and we strung them together in 3 different levels, and then we added in a component of single leg stability and core stability and kind of a bear position as well. And so here, I'm just gonna like, let's just do it this way. Let's just do it this way. All right. So I'm over here, right? You can see my lower body. I'm gonna rotate down. I'm gonna drop the knee so that I'm rotating down. Take the legs over, pull it back up, and come back around, right? So I didn't add in the advanced component to that, but teaching people how to go from a standing position to a seated position, back to a standing position with proper joint alignment by using that rotational stability and mobility, right? And so that's just like, you know, that was a terrible example. Obviously, people aren't going to pick up on anything from that.
No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, so just to give you guys an example, what we're doing there is we're rotating from a squat into a lunge, dropping the knee back even further, opening the hips up, coming down, coming in through like a butterfly position, and then rotating up the exact opposite way. And you can go from right to left. Literally, if you do that back and forth 3 times, and then go do your squat workout, or go to your cycling workout, or go to your runs or something like that, you're going to feel like 5 times looser. You're going to feel like you have better connection to your muscles. And then, like I said, the best part is when you go to the park and you're holding on to your baby and you can't figure out how to get down to your butt because you want to sit down on the grass, all you got to do is rotate down, and you're like, oh, look, I'm in a seated position, and I feel great, right? So that's just one example of kind of a more advanced, a little bit more complicated routine.
Okay. I don't have any more questions, but is there a question that I haven't asked or something that you'd like to leave readers or viewers with?
Yeah, I can kind of jump in on a couple things real quick, Rick.
Of course,
Of course. Yeah, I could talk all day about this. You guys got all day. I'm going to tell you all the problems that's wrong with the fitness industry. I think that the reason why we really wanted people to know about movement, right, and we're trying to educate people about movement, and this isn't like some crazy advanced program. We're not asking you to do like, you know, crazy back bridges and handstands and things like that. I have other programs for that, right? This is to get anybody. This is to get literally anybody realizing that movement is the foundation of exercise, right? And so like I said, we've already done the person 1, person 2 thing, but another great example is just to think about one person just moves well and the other person just doesn't move well. And we take both of these people and we put them on the same training routine. Well, the person who doesn't move well is not going to get as good of results. They're going to feel bad about themselves because they're watching the person who moves well getting great results following the same routine as them, right? And then they're also increasing the risk of getting injured, right? And pretty exponentially. So, and they don't know. Here's the problem. This guy who moves well naturally doesn't know that's why he's getting results. He just happens to move well. And some people just move well, right? And I'm jealous of those people because I wasn't born moving well, right? I had to learn how to move well through many injuries, right? And the person who's not getting the results that they want and are watching that other person get the great results, that person is frustrated because they think it's them. They think it's their laziness. They think it's their routine, but it's not. It's their ability to effectively move their body that makes that workout program powerful. So we're not telling people they need to follow a suspension training program or a bodyweight program or a gymnastic or kettlebells or barbells or P90X or whatever. We don't really care what workout routine you're following. We're trying to optimize your movement so whatever you do, you're safer, you get better results from it. That's kind of what our goal is with this program. And I just want to cut through the confusion, because I feel like people who are frustrated with their exercise, they don't know the reason why they're not getting results might be because they suck at moving. Right?
Yeah.
Well
That's true. That's true. Oh, hey, Sylvia, you have any last points?
Really, I mean, the last point that I would say is that, you know, in addition to what Tyler was saying, is that some people just don't know how to move well. And also, too, for those people that have never moved and have never done any exercise, that their doctor all of a sudden is saying, hey, guess what? You need to start exercising. And again, it's that frustration of like, oh, God, like, what do I do? And then they just don't see any results. And this is something that those people can use just to start moving, start to learn how to move and go from one movement to the other. So just, you know, for beginners, anybody that just really, everybody needs this. And again, it could be the top of the line athletes, those people that are already, you know, professional as far as weightlifters, moms, dads, anybody. So this is just a well-rounded, you know, flows just for anybody from beginner all the way to advanced.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Tyler and Sylvia.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, from exercisesforinjuries.com. If you haven't visited exercisesforinjuries.com, swing by, enter in your injury or pain. There's a good chance that I have an article or a video or an interview on your injury or pain. Second thing, if you're watching this on YouTube, head up above, hit subscribe. What that'll end up doing is every couple days you'll end up getting an interview like this, or a video where I talk about injury and pain, or a guest video from one of my friends that are involved in the health and fitness field. Lastly, head down below, hit like, and leave us a question for myself, Sylvia, or Tyler, and we'll answer it and get back to you. So that's it. So this is Rick Kaselj, Tyler, and Sylvia saying take care and bye-bye.